Yes, ma'am.
Oh, sorry. Could everyone please unmute themselves? Unmute yourself, unmute yourself. Feel free to laugh, clap, heckle, or boo. Let's get this on.
Boo!
Boo! Get off the stage.
Hip hip hooray.
Get off the shed.
That if I could work in a restaurant and become an exposer of pedophiles, so can you. What we need to do in a force of nature problems is propose force of nature solutions. Because radical doesn't mean crazy. Radical means addressing the rot, addressing the root. And that is why we have proposed a Red New Deal for the future of America. This is what organizing looks like. This is what building power looks like. This is what changing the country looks like. It's when we choose to stand up and override the lies and talk about the things that matter most, talking about the future. Toastmaster, you bring up a funny anecdote. I'm proud to be a sous chef. Ain't nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with competing in the market against US citizens only. There's nothing wrong with securing our border where our citizens will live. There's nothing wrong with protecting the laws that make our country work. With being a blue-collar person in the United States of America, there is everything dignified about it. I, in fact, am encouraged when I remind social media of my past, not because about anything of my story, because it communicates that if I could work in a restaurant and become a comedian and podcaster, so can you. Entitlement of any kind is the loose thread on fabric of society just waiting to catch. And it will catch. If we do not address pornography, if we do not address child abuse, if we do not address the debt gap, the millennial debt gap, if we do not address mass complacency, if we do not address the disproportionate number of mothers in our communities, if we do not address the injustices of our regulation system, if we do not address the injustices of our educational safety, those are the threads that are just waiting to catch on society. And that is why, without addressing it, any economic policy, environmental, healthcare, or otherwise is just waiting to unravel. It is built on a house of chaos. But this is temporary. And that is why, in a time of radically deep problems that we see today, whether it is the growing influence of Black supremacy or it is the rollback of civilian protections by democratic administrations, whether it is the agenda of George Soros, what we need to do in radically deep problems is propose radically patriotic solutions. Because radical doesn't mean crazy. Radical means addressing the root, addressing the rot. We do not shy away from bold conversations of recalls, citizens' arrests, and free speech as human rights, of market competition as dignified work, of policy that isn't drafted with the next outrage in mind, but with the next generation in mind. That is the moral, political, and economic underpinning of making bold deportations and dignified jobs. That is the necessary plan to fix the crime in Los Angeles and to create available jobs for transitioning workers in Appalachia and West Virginia, for competitive health and personal choice for all, and propaganda-free public colleges and universities, and to prepare our nation for the future, and for the end of mass indoctrination, the war on families, examining and pursuing an agenda of transformations, and fixing the opioid crisis too. Because one of the things that King taught us is that our destinies are inextricably linked, and that is just part of the American philosophy as anything else. Because ultimately, ending this civil war is about ending the root causes of entitlement. And in the words of Dr. King, true peace is not merely the absence of tension, but it is the presence of self-respect. Thank you all very much.